So where should we start?
Well, so I think that, we were talking about these extremes, right? That you shouldn't weigh, you should weigh, you shouldn't track calories, you should. There's all these extremes in the weight loss industry. And I think it's really hard for people. What I hear, and I'm sure you hear it too, and experience it is what's the right way? What are we supposed to do? What is it good to track? Is it not good? Is it good or bad? So
Yeah,
I would love your take on that whole good and bad. What should you do? What shouldn't you do? And I
yeah,
think you have a really interesting take on that.
yeah. So what I'd like to, emphasize is you and I are our approach includes what we call a mindfulness twist to habit change. So I want to go there first for a moment and say that if you go too far, too extreme in that direction, let's say the mindfulness direction, it's that it's all internal. It's just how you feel. There's no particular measures that are happening that are external, and I think that ultimately uh, that can go too far in one direction. So to me, this perfect balance or integration is, let's say you go to the other extreme, it's too much focus on externals, too much focus on how you look and not how you feel, what the
Mhm.
scale says versus how you, again, how your clothes fit or how you feel in your
Mhm.
body. So you can go too far either way. So to me, what's so important about this is there's a place in the middle where you integrate those two opposites and it's
Mhm.
very balanced. It feels really good and it's really a happy, healthy place. It's about the best place you can get,
Yeah.
and I think that's kind of what our focus is today. Is it's not about too much only this and this over here is bad or the other. You know, it's like no, it's this balanced place in the middle
Yeah.
where things really happen.
So it's not about black and white and pendulum swinging from one to the other, which I've seen people do, and you probably have too, right? Oh, I was doing this and it was so
I,
stringent, so I
I
decided to do that.
yes, I know. How do you think I
Personally,
figured this
yeah.
out?
And same thing here. Yes. I mean, I've had times of strict, and gone the other way. And yeah, and it's exhausting. It's exhausting. So we're not in this black and white, and we want to kind of not go back and forth between those two because that's exhausting. But we've both found this kind of gray space. But how do you define that gray space?
Yeah, like I
What
was
is
saying.
that?
Like I was saying earlier, it's like we're trying to get to this really clear, with clarity, gray.
Yes. Through the
So,
fog of gray. Yes.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
no, it's not easy. It is complex, but I do think that between the two of us, we do have some understanding of how this works in a way that we have something to share.
Yes, and I think more importantly, because both of our work as a coach and as a psychologist, that um, both of us know that what our clients and patients know is the most reliable. So we've experienced this for ourselves, but we can't tell them how to do it. And I think that's really important for somebody to find their balance,
Yeah,
not the way we do it, not the way anyone else does it, but find their balance. And that's really, I think, what both of us love doing is helping
yeah.
people find their way and how they can do it.
Or just to know that there is a balance. There is
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
here. By
Yeah.
going either
Yeah.
extreme, with the external measures or
Yeah.
extreme with mindfulness, only internal experience, we'd say.
Mm,
But when you get in this middle place, it's something that's sustainable. And from a
yeah.
habit change standpoint, that is huge
It's
because
huge.
you can get temporary results,
Yeah.
from either extreme. But again, I think our message is we want to promote something that's sustainable.
Yes. Yes. And when it's stressful, it's not sustainable. We all know that. We've all experienced that. Like you could
Yeah.
use your inner pusher, right? And use that to get there. It will be very
Yes.
effective to grit your teeth and kind of, okay, let's go, let's tackle this. And the
Yes.
war on weight and the battle of weight and all of those words that we use that are so extreme
Yeah.
and the challenges and all of that kind of stuff.
Yes.
promote that extremity. So yeah, can
Yes.
you add in your piece on the committee members and all of that? Because I think that's so helpful.
Yes. Yes, and actually, one other piece I'd like to add in, because, certainly people in mainstream culture are very aware of the external, the push, you know,
Hmm.
and
Yep.
no pain, no gain, or you have
Yeah.
to work really hard at this and have a lot of discipline.
Yeah.
So, that part, I guess everybody's familiar with. But again, if I go over here to the mindfulness end of it,
Yeah.
where that kind of starts to become extreme, in my opinion, or become ineffective, is
Mm.
when you're getting messages like, "You're not supposed to care how you look."
Mm,
It's
yeah.
not supposed to matter what the scale says, or it
Right.
doesn't matter, you shouldn't be concerned about any of this.
Yeah.
In other words, you become so it gets a little ungrounded because
Yeah.
you're not concerned about your f earthly physical presence.
Right.
Reminds me of that, what was that phrase? "You become so spiritually minded, you're no earthly good," or
Right. Yeah. So those extremes again, and it sounds like both of them are filled with judgment. That you
Yes.
shouldn't care. That's
Yes.
all shoulds, and it's both of them are judgment.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, from the committee this idea of the committee members, though, uh, you and I have talked before about how what's so fascinating to me is you could be looking at 2 people doing the exact same thing. And this is actually a promotion of mindfulness in the internal
Mm,
experience. Let's
yeah.
say that if from over here, my inner pusher and my is running my exercise program,
Yeah.
you know,
Hmm.
and, my inner perfectionist is doing my tracking of whatever you wanna call it, points, carbs, calories, whatever it is. You could be doing that, but if those are the committee members that have pretty much taken over and are driving it, that's a pretty miserable
Yeah.
life, you
Yeah.
know? You're
Yes.
or it from the outside, you're doing good things, looks
Yeah.
good. On the
Yeah.
inside, it's not much fun. And then
Right.
you have over here, let's say, another person
Yeah.
that's doing the exact same thing. They're weighing themselves,
Mm,
or they're tracking their meals or whatever, but it's like but if you have other committee members in your head that are part
mm,
of that, not just your inner pusher and your inner
yeah.
perfectionist, if there's a mindfulness component over here, it's being done with self-compassion. It's
Yeah.
being done with curiosity. It's just and I
Yeah.
hope I can get that message across really clearly, that
Yeah.
it's not about so much the external thing you're doing, it's
Right.
what your internal experience of it and which committee members in your head are running it. And,
Yeah.
uh, again, it's not that we don't have a place for a perfectionist or a part of us that has
Right.
standards, high
Yes.
standards,
Right.
or a pusher that it helps us get things done. It's just that when that takes over and those are the only committee members that are
Mhm.
basically in your head running things, life gets pretty miserable.
Yeah.
And
This is
yet
why I love your go
and
ahead.
what's so
Yeah.
addictive about it what's so addictive about it is you can get results, at least at first or a while, and it's very
Yeah.
addictive because then you think, "This is the only way to get anything done."
Right.
No, and now you're addicted to
Yeah.
that, and it's so not true. And
Yeah.
then, of course, when the results start to fail, you're not getting the outcome that you
Right.
hope, or it's at such a high cost of personal misery.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like but you don't realize there is another way. There's
Right.
totally
Right.
another way.
Yeah. So without mindfulness, what you're saying is without mindfulness, without being aware, that inner pusher takes over and you get really stuck in the prefrontal cortex of, oh, this is very measurable. And you're not aware that you're being driven by guilt and shame and fear, and those emotions are what's fueling that.
Yeah,
And that really you're like we talked about last time, those guilt, fear, and shame from not using self-compassion are the driving force. They're the energy behind it, and we talked about energy management system, right? That
yeah,
energy management. So if you're in that camp where you're just focused on the externals and using your inner pusher, it's taking a lot of energy to drive that motivation, and that's exhausting and
and
not sustainable.
to try to
Yeah.
restrain yourself to not eat
Yeah.
anything or
Yes.
pushing yourself to do more reps than you really
Yeah.
should be doing if you were really listening to your body.
Yeah. Yeah. So the opposite of that, or the balance of that, right, is being adding mindfulness to those externals. So
Yeah,
you get on the scale, you track, and those are reminders to check in with your whole person. And that's why I like your committee members piece, because it really is a whole person approach to
yeah,
not just that inner pusher in your brain, but also, oh wait, body, what are you saying? Okay, hey, spirit, what are you saying? What do you need? What do I care about most here? It's not
yeah.
just those numbers. Yeah, and so it's a whole person approach. So it's balancing all of those pieces of you that are already inside that have something to say about this.
Yeah, and, like, if you use an example of, let's say, from this aspect over here, you may know that, you don't it's better to not eat too much, or to
Yeah,
not eat certain things too much,
right,
whatever.
right.
But the point is that if from over here, you're trying to use only your inner pusher to try to
Yeah,
make you not eat that,
right,
to train yourself to say no,
right.
to distract
Yeah,
yourself with something. Well, again, you can get limited results with that,
yeah,
and then it fools you into thinking that's the way you have to be. But
right.
from over here, from the mindfulness component and the committee members that are more aligned with that in our head,
Yeah, yeah,
self-compassion and just
yeah,
basic curiosity. I mean, just
yeah,
basic objectivity, just looking at
right.
the numbers or the reality, without
Yeah.
anything added onto it. But again, back to that, not don't eat that thing or stop eating now.
Hmm.
Okay, your inner pusher is of limited help with you on that. But from
Yeah.
here, if you're drawing on your body experience,
Mm.
mindfulness, self-compassion, then it becomes a way of riding out those urges.
Yeah, yeah,
Now, it's just a whole different experience of how to not eat that thing. So again,
right.
go back to our other example, over here, you could see somebody not eating that thing,
Yeah, yeah,
eat it, okay, but over here, you're not eating that thing or too much of it or whatever, and yet
right.
there's a peacefulness. There's
Yeah,
an
yeah,
equanimity. It's just so much better, you know?
yeah, yeah,
And back to the sustainability part, my experience is when I'm doing it from over here, it's
right.
sustainable.
Yeah,
It's not
yes,
taking so much energy that drain
right.
it's more it requires less effort.
Mm. Sounds like you're using more of your internal resources, not just overly relying on the inner pusher. You're
Yes.
using all of your inner resources to look at the big picture of it. Wow, that's so interesting. I'm craving this. Huh, what's going on with that? And then
Yes.
that more kind, compassionate person who really wants to take care of you is saying, you know what, you had a really stressful day and those foods are really engineered to make you feel better. Oh, that's so interesting that I'm craving sugars right now. You know, Saying that I'm pushing myself harder even through soreness. That's so interesting that I'm
Yeah.
doing that. What's going on? And staying curious and kind.
Yes, and where the kind
Yeah.
part kicks in, the
Yeah.
curiosity is like, "Wow, what's going on with you?" Or, "Let's take
Yeah.
a look at that,
Yeah.
let's investigate." And then
Yeah.
where the kindness part kicks in, the self-compassion is, "I need some help with this,"
Right.
or
Right.
"This is hard."
Yeah.
It's like when you have a craving, I mean,
Right.
it's like how do you
Yeah.
not writing out a craving is really or having a craving, number 1.
Yes.
And then if
Yes.
I can go here for a second, and your inner perfectionist, I've had this experience of judging you
Mm.
for even
Yeah.
having a craving in the first
Yeah.
place.
Right.
Shouldn't
Right.
even have these cravings. You should be better than that, Jan.
Yeah.
Be past this now. You should be
Yeah.
able to handle this. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, the self-compassion, like, nope, you know what? I am totally human.
Yeah.
And this
You,
is really, really uncomfortable, and it's really,
right.
really hard, and I need some help here. That's
So
where
I
the self-compassion kicks in.
Yes. So I can hear a lot of people, right? Because I talk to a lot of people about weight loss, and I can hear the response to this in my head of people saying, that's going to take so much work and so much time. And I just need to results. I just need to lose weight. and then I'll feel better, and then I'll be motivated once I get to that goal weight. And this is
Yeah.
just going to take too much effort and too much time. I know what to do. I just have to cut out calories and be good and make myself exercise, and then I'll get to that goal weight and I'll feel better. I could hear the the counter argument to spending time on that side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess my answer would be that, okay, well, let me know how that works for you. Uh,
Which we all know, right? If you've
yeah,
done it, you know
yeah,
how it feels. Yeah.
yes. Or like, no, let's, or literally get your and track your
Yeah.
results. It's
Okay.
kind of like, okay, you know what? If that
Yeah.
is working for you over a
Okay.
sustained period of time, then
Yeah.
technically I can't argue with you. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
It's, I mean, the results are
Yeah.
pretty, they are black and
Right.
white,
Right.
you're getting the results you want. But my argument is that I don't think you're going to get those results, or at least be
Mm.
able to sustain them with any kind of
Yeah.
peace of mind. So
Yeah.
if I'm incorporating this over here, I've got a chance. Well, in fact, well, like here's a perfect example. I remember when I first joined Weight Watchers decades and decades ago, and it was really interesting. The moment that I achieved this little teeny tiny goal weight,
Yeah.
I never went
Amazing, right?
back because there
Yeah.
was a voice that said, "Okay, but I can't live like this. What
Mm.
it takes for me to exist
Yeah.
at this
Yeah.
teeny tiny weight, I can't do it. I cannot
Yeah.
live this way." So
Yeah.
I just had to stop going because
Yeah.
I can't do it. I can't live
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah.
It's not doable.
Right. So the answer to that, even those thoughts of, oh, this is gonna, that's, I can't do, I just know what I need to do, is just to, okay, stay curious, be mindful as you're just doing it and as you're pushing, and just notice. And the change happens when you become aware of how sustainable can I keep doing this? Is this sustainable?
Yeah.
Is this helping me in the end? And yeah, I've seen many people with that wake up moment of, and often when it takes them getting to, those are the people who get to surgery. The people I talk to in the surgery clinic is, I've tried everything else and it's not working and I need help.
Yes.
And to
Yeah.
me, that's a moment of, it's an opportunity to either continue on that path of, I just have to push, and the surgery is a tool that's going to make me push harder. Or when I get to my goal weight, then I'll be able to use all these tools to push myself to stay on track.
Yeah.
Or it's an opportunity to say, oh, wait, that approach is not sustainable, and surgery will not be sustainable if I keep on using that approach. So to me, that moment in whatever we choose to do, right, whether
Yeah.
it's medications or surgery or anything, that the more extreme the method for weight loss, the more we need to add mindfulness and self compassion and a really good awareness of
Yeah.
how we individually are designed to
Yeah.
thrive.
Yeah. So if
Yeah.
I can play off what you're saying, it's like if you needed an extreme intervention, let's say
Yeah.
like a weight loss surgery,
Mm.
that
Yeah.
could be an act of compassion to
Hmm.
offer that to yourself. You know,
Yes.
it's also because
Yes.
it is a pretty extreme intervention. What
Yes.
to balance that, you're going to
Right.
need a whole lot of the mindfulness component of it
Yeah. Yeah.
to really to make it work. And actually, if I could go back to another thing we just said, if let's say if there was someone over here that was maintaining their ideal weight and they're working
Hmm.
out and they're where they want to be,
Yeah.
you know, and they're achieving
Yes.
it with a whole lot of inner pusher and inner
Uh-huh.
perfectionist energy. Let's say, see, my bid to someone like that would say, that is great that you've been able to do that.
Yeah.
What if I could show you a way that you could do that and it would feel even better?
Right.
Would
Right.
not take the amount of effort, or
Yeah.
it would just be even happier. In other words,
Yeah.
I have a bigger, better offer. It's not like
Yeah.
what you've done is wrong or bad. Hey, good for you.
Right.
But it's
Right.
like, hey, what if there was something even better?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
over here, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's a question for people. Like, I've met people, and it's probably like 1% of the population, 2%, who are very like, just, this is what I do. I don't, they're, I don't want to use the word militant, but they're very like pragmatic. I just
Yeah,
do that.
Yeah.
I've met a lot of people who are married to people like that, and they're like, my husband can just do it, and he doesn't think about it. He doesn't get caught up in it,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
certainly there are people like that, and that whole like touchy feely thing is not for them. And I think that
Yes.
even at the heart of what they're doing, there's an element of self compassion, self kindness. To them, that is self care,
That's a
and so it's
great
there
point.
anyway. And I think
Yes.
when it works, there's an element of self care there. And to me, that is
Yes.
the hinge point of why this whole mystery of like, why do some weight loss methods work and some don't? To me, this is
Yes.
the hidden gem. What's
Yes.
the internal drive there? Is the internal drive punishment? I've got to make up for my past discretions and I've got to be really
Yes.
hard on myself. Or
Yeah.
is it, I care about myself and I want to live and I want to take care of my children. I want to be around, and is it that piece? And to me,
Yeah.
that is the telltale sign of whether something's going to be successful or not.
I love what you're saying because it's making a place over here for the person who can just do it.
Yeah.
It's not that hard, and they're
Yeah.
just fortunate to be wired that way, and it's
Yeah.
like, "Hey," but
That's okay.
for those of us that see someone like that, and it's like, "Oh, I'm trying to be like them," but,
Right.
you know yeah,
Yeah. They're
there
so
there
good, and they're
is
not
a
being
place.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, there
Yes.
is this
Yes.
place for
Yes.
and what I like most about what we're saying at this point is the lack of judgment.
Yes. Yes. And that judgment of other people, like I think good and bad are judgment. I think that's really important to recognize, right? That both
Yeah.
good and bad are judgments. So when we're
Yes.
saying, oh, I'm being good, we're also judging ourselves
Yes.
versus, oh, I did this and I feel better. That's not a
Yeah.
judgment, that's an observation. And I think that's really important to know.
Yeah.
And and I and that to just be aware when we're judging something good or bad.
So to play off what you were just saying, another element of this judging is good or bad. It fits somewhere comparing ourselves
Mm,
fits in. So if you're looking at someone comparing yourself to someone who is just literally hardwired to be very conscientious, there is a personality type
yeah.
that we've
Yeah.
identified, and it's just part one of the qualities. It's just part of your personality, your DNA. You come in with it, a conscientiousness. It's
Mm,
called, and
yes.
good at it, and it doesn't take a lot of effort. But what if I'm over here comparing myself and I'm not wired that way?
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yes.
need a different way, you know?
Yeah.
And, I just think I just it just fits so nicely in with what we were just talking about, the judgment
Yeah.
thing. There's
Yeah.
an
And
element of comparing that needs to just being aware of that, of,
yeah.
I wanna be comparing to my own what works
Mm,
for me. Th Talk about
yeah.
self-compassion. That's
Yeah.
self-compassion, not I be
Yes.
like somebody else. Either I shouldn't care, "Well, yeah, you know what? I do care." Or, "Oh, you've gotta look like this or do it this way."
Yeah.
Uh, it's like, nope, it's just what works for each individual.
Yeah. So this is a key point, right? That the judging is really an awareness that we've lost our way into our own personal guidance and we've started looking out there for
Yeah,
guidance and we'll
yeah,
never find it out there because it's only inside. And so
yeah.
we can use these guides. We can look, oh wow, that person's like that. Oh, but that's not me. And use them as guides. But the internal guide is the most reliable. Yeah, that's a really key point. And that self compassion, that is self compassion. Like you said, I love that. That's a great definition of self compassion is being true to yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like we're saying, the whole concept is it's quite complex,
Yeah.
but I do think that we're things that we can bring in that help bring
Yeah.
some clarity and some guidance to something
Yes.
that's very complicated.
Yes.
But there's ways that you can describe this, though. I wish you would weigh in on that for a few moments about just the external, the aspect of weighing ourselves. Period. Can you
Yeah.
comment?
Yeah. I think it's fascinating, and I've been in this weight loss clinic for a lot of years, for almost 2 decades. And what fascinates me is the power that the scale has on somebody. And we all know it, right? You get on the scale, it's like, oh, and it's either elation or it's
Yeah.
shame and guilt. And from a physiologic standpoint, I look at, okay, well, what is that scale measuring? The scale is three things. One, I think that it's a guess. It's not an absolute, and we take it as an absolute. Oh, I gained 3 pounds. That's bad. I lost 3 pounds. That's great. And it's not telling the whole story. We measure cholesterol. That's an exact measurement of the cholesterol in your blood. We measure blood sugars. That's the exact measurement. But weight is not a measurement of how much fat you have on your body or what's happening. We'll never know when we get on the scale what we're measuring. Just like if your gas gauge measured everything, the oil and the water and all the fluids in your car, your
Mhm,
gas gauge would pretty much be ineffective. You wouldn't know
mhm.
when you need gas, right? The scale is an all-in-one gauge like that. It's measuring your bone, your fluids, your muscle, your fat, your food, your elimination, everything. Everything is being measured on that one number. So
Yeah.
it's a guess. What did I lose? What did I gain? We'll never know from that. You can take a
So
guess, but it's not absolute.
so it sounds like you're saying, it's a number, it's a measure, but it's
Hmm.
not a very useful one, or
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not. It can give us some idea of you're heading in the right direction, or,
Yeah. Yeah.
but not that it's not that effective a measure,
Yeah.
that it's not as exact as these other measures, which I never
Right.
realized. I just
Yeah.
assumed that weight would be in this category over here with
Yeah.
A1C, with cholesterol,
Right.
all these other things you
We
mentioned.
put
For
it,
me,
yeah.
that's just like that's big news.
In healthcare, we put it in those categories, like what's your blood pressure, what's your weight, what's your cholesterol, and we put it in the category of risk factor measurement. And weight
Yeah.
is in that category. But if we had to, if I looked at you and said, "Oh, I think your cholesterol's this," if I had some kind of scam that said, "No, I guess your cholesterol's here," be effective. But we do that with weight.
Yeah.
Never ever. And BMI is the same thing. BMI is just height and weight with a formula that is very outdated and antiquated and has been shown to not be a helpful guide to know how much fat someone has on their body. But that's what it was intended to be.
Yes.
But it's been shown that it is not effective. The equations that they use for BMI are not effective at predicting, how much fat you have on your body, which was the intent. So, and certainly you could measure body fat. Um, but the thing is that the problem with weight, if we're carrying extra weight, the real heart of the problem is what are those cells doing to your physiology, right? There's different kinds of fat cells. Some of the fat cells are very pro-inflammatory, some not as much of an impact on inflammation. So the root cause that we know of all these problems that we're worried about with weight for health is inflammation.
Huh.
Is
Okay.
it causing inflammation, right? Is it creating that inflammatory response in the body that is the root cause of all of these things that are connected to weight,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And when they look at weight in and of itself and health risk, there's the obesity paradox of, we have some people have a hell of elevated body weight, but are fine. They're not having heart attacks. They don't have diabetes. They don't have inflammation. They're fine. And there's some people at a desirable body mass index who have all these health issues. And there's not a direct correlation between the two.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fitness level has given us a better clue of that when they factor in someone's fitness level, their
Mhm.
actual fitness level. That has a very much stronger, then weight has a stronger correlation. Fitness has a stronger correlation to health risks and longevity than
Yeah.
weight does. So
Yes.
it's more predictive. It's not convenient to measure fitness as it is to weight, right?
Yeah.
So we use weight because it's more convenient, but fitness is a much better prediction. And when I say fitness, I mean, can you walk up a couple of flights of stairs without getting tired and having to stop? Is your breathing, is your stamina up there? That it has that range of things that you could do, to produce energy in a lasting way. Can you get up out of a chair without pushing off with your hands because your legs are strong enough? Can you get up and down off the floor? Very
Mhm.
functional fitness things.
Yeah.
That can you do these things in everyday life that are very strongly connected to longevity? The ability
Yeah.
to get up out of a chair and how quickly you can do that has a much higher connection to your longevity and your ability to live independently. Even your grip strength does. So when we can measure these things, we can say, hey, you know what? We better work on you being able to get up out of a chair. Because if you fall down, we want you to be able to get up quickly, you
Yeah.
know, and we want you to
Yeah.
be able to walk up a couple of flights of stairs. Because if you have to get out of a burning building quickly, I want you to be able to do that without having to
This is
stop.
this is fascinating and simple, and I guess back to our original,
Because I could
plan.
go off on tangents about that.
No, no, this is
I
this is
know.
right on target to me about
Yeah.
where the black and white or whatever, but we do have some things. What you just described is so black and white. It's so simple. It's
Right,
not
right.
about when you first said fitness, I was thinking like, "Oh my god,
Yeah,
what, on a treadmill or something or
yeah,
stress
right.
test?" Like, no, you're just talking about, are you able to get around in your life and
Yeah, yeah,
function? That's all you
yeah,
were saying. I
yeah,
think I'm so glad that came up in this conversation because
yeah.
that's so clear. That's
Right. Yes.
there.
Fitness has become very muffled, but really the definition of fitness is the ability to do everyday life with ease and have that energy left over for emergencies and have fun.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So can you do that? Do you have the strength, stamina, and mobility to do that? We need all three. So yeah, that's a whole other topic. But so
Yes.
so weight is a guess, right? You get on the scale, it's always going to be a guess. BMI will always be a guess of what's going on in your body. Um, and I
Mhm.
say you can have that at this weight. It's
Mhm.
fitness. That's not weight.
Mhm.
So it's an external measure. We got to get to the internal measure, and it's a future focus, right? And you know this that the brain
Mhm.
really doesn't care about the future if you're not well now.
Mhm.
And so the
Yeah.
more we set a goal weight to say I want to be at this weight and we're future focused, but what matters now, what happens now inside how you feel now is what's driving your motivation to do
Yeah.
something. That
Yes.
craving that you're having is going to be more powerful than getting to a goal weight a year from
Exactly. That is a really important point, and that, again, to me, is where the self-compassion part puts
now.
in,
Yeah.
because it can give you an in the moment, not just an awareness of what's happening that you don't like. Let's say, for
Yeah.
example, a craving, which is very
Right.
uncomfortable, but in addition to that, it gives you a way with which to deal with
Mm.
that craving, how to handle it in the
Yes.
moment, like right now,
Yeah.
you know?
To feel better now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
So,
that. Right. So
yes.
it's not a longer road, as someone might say, oh, this is going to take so much work to learn how to be self compassionate. I'm not good at being kind to myself. It's actually an easier road because it's feels better
Oh,
now. And,
yeah. Yeah. I'm really
if you
glad
just
you're
let
putting
yourself do that.
I'm really glad you're putting it that way because,
Yeah.
yes, if you think over here, mindfulness means you have to do these practices forever, and yes, I mean, you do have to develop skills,
Yeah.
but the point is to help you now in the moment when
Yes.
you're tempted, or you're at a decision point,
Mm,
or your inner rebel is about to take
right.
over, and I don't care I'm going to eat that. I don't
Yeah.
care what it is, or, what the effect. I'm going to eat this and you can't stop me.
Right. Right. That inner
I'm
teenager
going
that
to
we
have
have.
it. Yes. From over here, there's a way to
Yeah.
deal with that,
Yeah.
to where you don't have to go in a rebel to,
Yeah.
get your needs met.
Right. It's like dealing with a teenager or a 3-year-old. The more
Yes,
you push against it, you tell them they can't do it, the more they're going to push against it, which is why we know
exactly. And that's kind
restrictive
of where,
eating, restriction
yeah,
doesn't work. Yeah. We all
yeah.
have that inner teenager or 3-year-old.
Yeah, this is a great way to wrap up if we want to
Yeah.
in ending here, but it's kinda like from over here, if you
Mm.
think that your inner pusher and your inner perfectionist are powerful and strong, the strongest
Mm.
parts, no, no. Over here, your inner rebel and
So
your inner
true.
child, that tender
Yes.
child, guess what? They can be no, inner pusher, no match, no match. I just
It's
just
very true. I
yeah.
love that. I love that because I think even the strongest parent can be taken down by a 3-year-old tantrum in the grocery store,
Exactly, and we have
right?
those committee members in our own heads, and
Yes.
yet if you're just relying on inner pusher, inner
Yeah.
perfectionist, you need some other team members
Yes.
to help out, because they have their strengths, and
Yeah.
we don't wanna get rid of them, and thank
Right.
goodness we have them. But you're gonna need more than that. We're gonna have to
Yes.
your boat.
I love this. So it really can be simple. And the bonus is you can feel better now. So those people who are like, I have to just push through so I feel better later.
Yeah.
It's nice to
Yeah.
hear, hey, you know what? You can feel better now. That's a beautiful thing,
Yes.
which is great when you're carrying extra weight. Because we talked
Yes.
about that last time, that it's the hardest thing to have extra weight and have nothing you can do about it now. Self
Yes.
compassion and mindfulness and moving to feel better now and eating to feel better now in your whole
Yes.
person
Yes. Yeah.
is that instant gratification that we're looking for, really.
Yes, and it can lead
Yeah.
you to these, whether it's taking a weight loss drug or surgery or
Hmm.
joining an exercise class or something,
Yeah.
there's a place,
Yeah.
but, if it's coming from over here,
Yeah.
I need help and I need it right now. Yes, there are things that can help right now. And if I
Yeah.
could say one last thing, this is kind of
Yeah.
summing up. This is, to me, when I'm working with clients, something I've discovered seems to make a difference is,
Mm.
most of my clients, against all executives and professionals,
Yeah.
everybody's type A,
Yeah.
driven, super
Yeah.
smart, accomplished. So there's plenty of inner pusher and inner
Hmm.
perfectionist operating over here for them.
Yes.
So if I'm going to try to convince them that there's a different way to approach it.
Mm.
Uh, what I've learned is all I have to do is kind of start talking about this.
Mm.
There's something about the energy of this that can pique their curiosity. Do you know what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say?
Yes. You're
That
like,
in other words, it may be like, "Okay, I think that's a bunch of bull, Jan," or like, "Okay, that mindfulness crap, no, please don't go there." But there'll be something intriguing because there's an
mm,
energy, there's a feel to this
yes.
way of operating over here, and it's
Yeah.
very appealing,
Yeah.
and you can't help but get curious, but you want like, "Really? Like,
Yeah.
how does that work?" And
Yes.
that's when I may be able to start making progress with,
Right.
like, "Hey, you know what? Hey, what you
Yeah.
got's great, don't lose it. I just have some other things you could add in,
Mm,
and it's even better,
yeah.
better."
You're really using mindfulness to shine a light on what might be missing from the way that they're operating, to
Yeah.
say, hey, you know what, these are the positive parts. This is great. This is working, but there might be a piece here that could even bring you up to the next level of
Yes.
not only just productivity, but sustainability. And I think
Yeah.
that's my takeaway from this, is that sustainability
Yes.
of
It's
all
not
of
like
this.
Yes, it's not like I'm judging. The way that
Yeah.
you've done this and run your
Yeah.
life or your career or whatever is wrong
Yeah.
and bad, and you should
Yeah.
change that. I'm saying like,
Yeah.
"Okay, you wanna really appreciate what worked in
Right.
here, and you need to keep it," you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But what if there was something even better?
Yeah.
It's not that you've done anything wrong or bad. What if
Mhm.
there's something even better than what
Yeah.
you're doing
Yeah.
now? That can
Which
get
is
intriguing to people.
which is why they come to you in the first place, because they want something better. There's something missing, but they can't quite put their finger on it, so you're helping them kind of highlight what's missing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Good
think yeah.
nice way to I think it's just a nice way to end
Yeah.
this awareness that, it is complex, and yet there are some very black and white simple things that you and I can point out. And
Yeah.
hopefully, it's if you're interested, if it piques your curiosity, you're
Mhm.
automatically gonna want to know more. And that's why
Right.
we're doing more videos.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly, because there's so much more to this, but this was so great, I think, to really highlight, you know what, it doesn't have to be hard, it doesn't have to be stressful to form these habits, and really, because they can be something that gives you life right now,
Yeah.
rather than delaying that enjoyment and that peace and that contentment and
Yeah.
energy that comes from meeting yourself where you are and bringing out the best in you to sustain all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
I love it, Jan. Thank you for sharing your expertise on that, really.
Thank you, Janet. It's always so enjoyable, and I always learn something.
Me too.